Welcome to Concord TV and the Concord Athletic Alumni at Work interview series. This is episode number 3. My name is Wes McKinney, and today we're joined by Dustin Greenwood, coming to us all the way from Denver, Colorado. Dustin, so great you could stop by for a little while today.
Oh, Wes, I appreciate you having me on, man. This is cool.
Yeah, so I want to read your list of accomplishments here. Quite a career at Concord from 2004 to 2008 as both a member of the football team playing an assortment of positions and then also on Mike Cox's track and field team during that same time. Two-time WVIAC conference champion on the track, all WVIAC first team in football, NCAA Division II track and field championship qualifier, owner of 5 current school records in the track and field program, and 3 years ago in 2017 you were inducted into the Concord Hall of Fame, man. Quite a resume there for you, but what we want to know now is, what are you up to? I mentioned you're living in Denver, but what's been going on, since you left Concord, I guess about 12 years ago now?
Man, 12 years ago. It doesn't seem like it should be that long, but yeah, 12 years. It's been a while. I'm getting old. No, but I after finishing up at Concord, I was very lucky and got a graduate assistant job with Virginia Tech, strength and conditioning. So that got me into my graduate program there. I worked in the weight room. I started off with just Olympic sports, which is like softball, baseball, wrestling, swimming, basically everything outside of basketball and football, which is great. I mean, I learned so much from the staff there. It was a great experience that I got to share with a lot of the colleagues that I had there. Then my second year in that program, I started working with football, which was a great experience. Again, learned a ton. Terry Mitchell was the head Olympic sports coach there at the time. Learned a ton from him. Mike Gentry was the head strength and conditioning coach for football, and he had been there longer than Frank Beamer. He was there, I think, like maybe 40 years, which is unheard of in the strength and conditioning world. And the collegiate setting is, the head coach gets fired and the whole staff goes, So to have a guy that was there for so long, so well respected in the industry, and taught me a ton. For my connections there, I got a job in Florida, bounced down there to Chris Everett's Tennis Academy, and was an assistant director of athletic performance there. Ended up doing some more training job in Virginia, and that's where I met a guy who brought me out here to Colorado, where I'm now the director of performance for Elite Speed Sports Performance. We're a private training company here in Denver, Colorado, and we just mostly work with athletic populations from middle school up to professional ranks.
Yeah, you talk about the strength and conditioning, and I knew you'd gone to Virginia Tech. I didn't know exactly what your role was there in Blacksburg, but I just wanted to touch on it. Colorado tends to be a popular spot for a lot of athletes to train that have Olympic aspirations or whatnot. Obviously, Colorado Springs is a popular training center. It's actually home of the U.S. Olympic Training Center. So, in your work out there in Denver, do you guys see a lot of high level athletes come through there now?
Yeah, we're especially getting to the point now. When I first started with the company, it was a relatively young company. I think it was only 5 or 6 months old when I came out and joined the team, and then now we're 8 years in. We've got a lot of guys now. It's really cool to see. When I first started there 7.5 years ago, they were high school sophomores and juniors coming in and trying to fight for scholarships. They wanted to come in and train, and we're working with baseball guys and soccer players and stuff like that. And now those same kids are signing professional contracts. They're getting drafted, and they're doing all these things. And it's really cool to see, because I get to look back and be like, man, I remember when you were 15 and you came walking in. Now, you're 22, 23 years old. You just finished your college career at, Oregon or something like that. And then now you get drafted and signing these $1 million signing bonuses. And you kind of see those dreams realized in these 15-year-old kids. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, for maybe the common listener, any name, that people really recognize that's come through your facility out there?
Yeah, so if you're following baseball, David Peterson is one of those guys that I'm mentioning that he came in when he was like a sophomore or junior in high school. He's a 6'7" lefty, throws in the mid to low 90s. He's one of the starters for the Mets. Just got his big league debut actually at the start of this season, I believe. And I think last I checked, he was 4-2 and had like a 3.54 ERA, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's doing pretty well. Todd Davis is one who's currently in the news now. He just got released from Denver. I think Denver's trying to save some money on him. I think they had a decent contract coming up, but he's looking at a few different teams, has a lot of interest. And it's really cool to watch some of these guys work out because they are phenoms, and you see the work ethic that goes into it. Not only are they genetically gifted, but
Mm-hmm.
then you see how hard they work for what they do. It's awesome.
All right, let's rewind the tape here back to 2003, 2004, that time frame. You're coming out of high school in Fluvanna County in the Richmond area, and
Yeah.
who all
No fluke.
right? Who all's recruiting you at that time? And was there a thought in your mind that you wanted to be a dual sport athlete in college, or was that kind of something that was maybe just kind of a pipe dream at that point?
Yeah, I didn't have a ton. I didn't have any offers. I had a lot of preferred walk-on spots. I was a quarterback in high school, and I had a lot of Ivy League interest. But I'm pretty sure that came about because my high school coach put down a very inflated SAT score on a lot of those things that go out. And because I go up there and I go to visits, I'm walking around Princeton's campus and it's beautiful. And I'm listening to these other guys and parents and stuff talking to the coaches about their kids' SAT, the 1,500 this and a 4.3 GPA here. And I elbow my dad who's with me. I'm like, I don't think I belong here.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
it was kind of fun. I mean, it was great to experience that and see those campuses and, kind of have that Ivy League taste. But yeah, I wasn't going to get in academically on that one, I don't think. But like William and Mary had some interest. Randolph-Macon, a lot of the D3s in Virginia, and everybody wanted me to preferred walk-on and quarterback. Concord, when the coaches came by, I think they were more interested in the guy that came in as my roommate my freshman year, as my best friend in high school, was Kenny Blackwell. He played football and kicked. He was a very good kicker. I think they had more interest in him, and then our right guard would have been like a D2 fullback type guy. He's like 5'11", 250, ran pretty well. So I think they were looking heavier at those two guys, and I was just kind of like maybe a little bit of an afterthought. And I remember talking to I think it was Mike Gutilius and Charlie Stansbury were the two coaches that came to visit us, and they were looking at my tape. And it was on VHS, by the way. That's how long ago it was.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And I think it was Coach Stansbury kind of, elbowed Coach Gutt and was like, hey, this guy can kind of run. Like, should we see if he wants to come play receiver? And when they came and approached me and asked if, that they would be recruiting me to come in as a receiver position, that kind of intrigued me because I wanted to try something different. And, the quarterback position is a great position. I just didn't know if I could handle that stress at the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, maybe receiver's gonna be a better move for me. I might enjoy that a lot more, and I like that idea. So that was one of the things that kind of swayed me. They were the only ones that wanted me to play wide receiver. So I don't even think I came and visited Concord before I committed, but my friend Kenny went, and he messaged me, and I talked to him afterwards after he saw the spring game that 2000 and I think it would have been 4 spring. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I think you can come in here and you can play and contribute. And I was like, cool. Like, that's all I was looking for. I just want to play. And I wasn't really thinking too much about the second sport and doing track and field. I loved track and field through high school and wanted to run the hurdles. So I picked up the phone after I thought, this is the spot for me. Picked up the phone. I call Coach Cox, and I remember being really nervous. And I was like, man, I'm going to ask this guy for a spot on the team. Like, I don't even know if he's going to want me on the team. So I call him and I'm like, hey, Coach Cox, my name is Dustin Greenwood. I'm coming in to play football, and I also want to run track. I don't know if that's something that, you guys typically let happen. A lot of times coaches won't allow their guys to do both.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like kind of nervous. I'm asking him, like, do you have a spot on the team? I give him my numbers, and I think I finished third in the state of Virginia AA my senior year. And I couldn't tell. I couldn't get a read over the phone if he was like excited or interested or whatever. And he was like, yeah, like, we'll have you come out and we'll have you run. And I was like, yes. And then I get there and I realize that Coach Cox, love him to death, but he needs numbers. He needs bodies. He needs people to run. Like, we don't have a full, like, chock full of athletes. So it was one of those things where it's like, I was so nervous to call and like see if he would let me run. And then I get there and I'm like, yeah, we're taking anybody and everybody who can run. Like, we need to get more people out here running. And it was like, I put all this pressure on myself. I was so nervous to ask if I could run, and it's, it wasn't that big of a thing. So kind of funny, but glad I did that, because that was so much fun. It was a lot of work doing two sports through it, but I loved my time with the track and field team, and all the practices were so much fun with the people that we had out there.
You mentioned that you were intrigued after playing high school quarterback. You were intrigued by the fact that the Concord coaching staff wanted to move you to receiver. Was that kind of what really set Concord apart? I mean, you mentioned that Randolph-Macon was in the mix, and obviously that's probably not too far from home for you.
Right.
But what was it that really kind of set Concord apart from these other schools that were pursuing you for college?
That was one of the main things. I looking back on it, I didn't know what to do in that recruiting process. I didn't really have anybody kind of helping guide me that I should, look at schools for, this laundry list of things. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to study, so that I wasn't too worried about. I was going to figure out the degree part when I got in there. So it was one of those things that I was just worried about the sporting aspect of it, and they, said that I could do both sports, and I, from listening to my buddy Kenny, told me, he was like, yeah, you can get out there and play. So I was like, well, my mind's made. I want to play football and I want to run track, and I'll figure out the rest as we go. And that was kind of what really made me lean towards Concord, was that coaching staff seemed awesome. I really liked the guys that had recruited me in, and and once I got in and just kind of fell in love with the campus, and a lot of the people was, I think, what really made that place special, and like why I know I made the right decision after I got there. Just spending a lot of time with the guys on the team and the people around campus and the town itself. I mean, it's one of those things. It was unique, and I felt at home.
All right, so you say you didn't want to, or you couldn't handle this, or you didn't think you could handle the stress of playing quarterback at the collegiate level. You come here as a receiver, and you're still top 10 as it stands right now in career catches at Concord. You're ninth with 114. You caught 14 career touchdowns in your career. That's tied for ninth in program history. But then, Dustin, what happens there whenever you're asked to move to quarterback and you had to play quarterback for one season? What was kind of going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, so athletically, I had a really big maturation the first couple of years being there, and I attribute that 100% to being a wide receiver and having to run routes. And now I'm running, I was a pocket passing quarterback in high school. I didn't really run. So like being able to then, start being dynamic, running the ball as a wide receiver and catching passes, I start to build my confidence back up, I think, a little bit. So when they came to me, we had a pretty rough junior season, and our offense it wasn't really producing. We had a really good defense, and they kind of helped, I think, carry us through and keep us in a lot of games. We just couldn't get a lot going on offense. I think at the time we were running a lot of two tight, two back stuff. I think Ben Thornton was our running. Who was it? Ben that year was running the ball a lot, and we didn't have a lot of dynamic stuff happening, I don't think, on that side of the ball. So then the last game of the junior season, we're playing North Greenville, and we had talked about it that week of and prepped, and we completely 180 changed our offense. So they have 9 games or 10 games of film on us, too tight, too back, power eye, like running the ball down the other team's throat or attempting to, right? And then we come out shotgun spread, 4 wide, read option, like whole different game plan. And they didn't know what hit them. They had no idea. Hadn't prepped for any of that. I'm wearing 84, playing quarterback, running read option spread on these guys, and I think we had like 300 yards rushing. Like, I mean, that was by far and away our best output offensively. So then it kind of got me juiced up and excited to do something like this. So then we prepped that whole next off season for that style of offense. I think we brought in a new offensive coordinator at that time as well, and implemented jet sweep, shotgun read option kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that was so much fun. I think I got 6 games starting at quarterback. We had a true freshman that they had recruited in. That was had a really good senior campaign. Threw it for a ton of yards from Kentucky, and then he started to take over like the last 4 or 5 games or so. So they put me back out at receiver, and kind of like almost had like a 2 quarterback system kind of through there the last bit of that senior year. And yeah, it was a fun style of offense, man. That was a blast to do. And I think, as I matured through college, I was able to kind of understand more about the game of football and how to handle those stressors, and really be more of a game manager and a leader at that point. And I felt a lot more comfortable going back to the quarterback position at that point.
You talk about all the success you had on the football field, and really there hadn't been anybody that had been had that much success in multiple sports at Concord for several years. I mean, you got to go back to like the 60s and 70s to find someone that was, all conference in football and, track or football and baseball or what have you. But let's step away from the football field and let's focus on the track. You said you make this kind of awkward phone call to Coach Cox there after you had decided to come to Concord to play football, and you had run hurdles in high school, had a lot of success there, but then you get here and he kind of transforms you, so to speak, into a decathlete. What was that process like, Dustin?
That was something I think I just added a little bit here and there over time. So my freshman year I get in, I'm a hurdler. I have no real interest in running, many relays or, anything like that. I just want to come in, I want to run the hurdles. It's a college setting, I got to make sure that I'm getting acclimated to the higher height and all this stuff. And then I think they pulled out some javelins one day at practice, and we start throwing them around a little bit. And I go over and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I played quarterback in high school, and see they chuck this thing around and grab it and just give it a whirl, and it kind of goes. And I was like, that's kind of fun. Like, let's see what I can do with this thing here. So I start throwing, and within like a really short amount of time, I felt like I was picking it up and throwing it with the better throwers on our team. So I'm like, oh, we'll start putting you in meets as a hurdler and a javelin thrower. I was like, cool. So I picked that one up. And then, Coach Cox was like, hey, ever long jumped or done anything like that? And I was like, yeah, I did it a couple of times in high school. It wasn't very good. And he's like, all right, well, we're going to dual meet, small meet, like add this here, add this. Start adding, we need you on a relay. You mind running like 4x1 or 4x4? Okay, sure, whatever. And start adding these events here or there. And then he's like, hey, you ever thought about the decathlon? And he's my sophomore year. And I was like, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do I got to do? And they start rattling off all the events. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. I could probably high jump, long jump. I'm not very good at them, but I was okay at everything. And that's kind of like what a decathlete is. You're good at 1 or 2 events, like really good, and then you're just good enough at everything else. It's like, okay, cool. But then he gets to the pole vault, and I was like, oh no, I really don't want to do the pole vault. So I'm talking to him, I'm like, how much time do I really want to put into learning this one event? Because it could be really time intensive. So we just chose to not do a whole lot with pole vault and focus on a lot of the other things. Because I guess by my senior year, I had probably 5 or 6 events that I'm doing in the open as well as the decathlon. So, I was running relays and long jumping, and I think I actually got points in the high jump somehow. But yeah, so it was like, don't even worry about pole vault. We'll just take the 300 points or something like that and move on. We'll focus on the other ones. We'll make it up, down in the other events. So, but yeah, it was fun. I loved that event. The decathlon is so much fun. You get to do all the things, and it's fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it worked out okay for you there. Conference champ in 2008 in the decathlon. You still own the school record with, it's obviously in points, not a time or distance thing, but 6,298 points your senior year. You also own the school record in javelin, 62.89 meters. 2008, 100-meter hurdles, 55-meter hurdles, and 60-meter hurdles indoor. But really the thing that really made you kind of set apart from everyone else is all your success that you had in javelin. And you said, it was kind of natural for you because you had played a quarterback in high school, and it's kind of the same throwing motion. But how much did you have to work to hone your craft at and set yourself apart to just not a good level, Dustin, but kind of an elite level all of a sudden?
Yeah, that was something that it was a lot of work, and credit to Coach Cox. I mean, he's a cross country guy. He's a marathon runner. John Paul Blankenship deserves a lot of credit for that, because all of, I guess, my 4 farthest throws are pretty much attributed to him, because I couldn't get my adrenaline to kick.
I know where this is going. I heard this story. I've heard this story recently.
So
go ahead, though. Go ahead. Yes, please.
I couldn't get my adrenaline to kick on. I needed that kind of like adrenaline boost to just rip this javelin, right? So I'm throwing, and it's going okay, and I'm not going great. And I don't know how it first started, but I think John Paul's like, man, you need to snap out of it. You need me to slap you? And I was like, yeah, actually. And he was like, for real? And I was like, yeah, just do it. Just hit me. So John Paul's 6'4", 315 pounds at this point. The guy's massive. He takes that bear paw and just wham right across the face. And man, that adrenaline kicks, buddy. And I immediately grabbed that javelin, hucked it, and that was my national qualifying throw right there. Boom. Biggest throw by like 20 feet. And I turn around, I'm like, oh my God, we're on to something here. Like, yeah, I just need to get the adrenaline to kick. So he hit me in the face, and that adrenaline went, and I just ripped the thing, man. Big credit to him. But yeah, we actually used a DVD to go through and start learning the technique, because Coach Cox had never really done it, didn't know anything much about it, just had seen guys doing it. So we bought a DVD, we started watching it, breaking it down, and I'd go and review. I'd have them film my throws. I'd go back, review my throws, cross-reference that with the DVD, and we would just sit there and go back and forth between the two, like, oh, I could be doing this, or I'm not doing this here that they're doing there. And that was a tough process, because we're all learning.
That story about John Paul, because I had Coach Cox in my office a few days ago, and I said, man, I need a good Dustin Greenwood story, just something to kind of lighten the mood. And he told me that story, and I was like, all right, got it. But no, something else I wanted to talk about here, and I can't remember who's told me this story, but maybe it was your junior year. You guys are at the track championships, which is the same weekend as the spring game, I believe. And
Yeah.
you got like helicoptered from Wheeling to Athens or something. I was kind of talk about that because I don't know the whole story there.
Yeah, so I wanted to do both, right? So the spring game was scheduled for, I believe, Saturday, after the second day of the decathlon. So the decathlon was Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And we finished like midday, 12 or 1 or something like that. And then the spring game was like 5 p.m. that Saturday. So it wasn't enough time, or wouldn't have a lot of time. It'd be a really tight window if I rode with the team and drove back. So Dr. Campbell and Coach Cox shared that office up there, and Dr. Campbell's father had a little 4-seater, a little private plane, a little Cessna or something along those lines. And he met us at the Wheeling Airport, which is just like a trailer and a runway. And we go walking up. So I finished the 1500, which is the last event, which was by far the most painful for me. That thing stunk. Get my big butt running around almost a mile. So immediately, like, quick cool down, get in the van, drive to the airport. I climb into the back of the little 4-seater plane, and he flies me down to Princeton, where we jumped in his truck, took off, and made it back. So I came out late to warm-ups, and this one of my favorite pictures, and I'm pretty sure it was a Dome or Karachi. One of them, I think, took the photo, but it's everybody else is already out on the field, and they're looking back towards the athletic center, and I'm running out in my gear, just coming back from the decathlon late. But I made it for the start of the spring game, which was pretty cool, and that experience was awesome, man. It's such a long day. I don't think I've ever been so tired in my life to finish that spring game, because I think it was like the first or second play of the spring game. I broke for like 60 yards, and you see me after like the first like 20 or 30, I like hit a wall, and I got like no gas, and I get caught from behind, and I'm just laying there on the field like, okay, get up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd heard that story a few years ago, and then I'd kind of forgotten about it, and I thought about it as I was getting ready for this interview. But I also want to talk about your experience of going to nationals. You say that John Paul obviously was instrumental in getting you to nationals with the infamous slap across the face, but only a select few athletes to get to perform on that stage, whatever sport it might be, and you get to do it there. I guess in 2008 out in California. So what was that experience like, Dustin?
Oh man, that was an incredible experience. That was something when I first got there. I remember watching a handful of guys, because John Paul was like a 5-time national qualifier, like indoor, outdoor, multiple-time All-American, I believe. And then there's a few distance guys. There's a couple of guys that would make the provisional times and stuff, and that was always like a goal, man. I was like, I don't know how, but I want to figure out a way to make nationals and go to the national championships. So when I hit the big qualifying throw, I think it was in the decathlon actually, was when I hit my mark for the provisional and got to go. I was just overjoyed. I remember they hit the mark, and I knew it was a big throw, and that was, I think, the first time John Paul really laid into me with a slap. And that thing just went. And they read the mark, and I like blacked out after I heard it. I jumped in the air, I'm screaming, and I run out. Coach Cox is in the sector. So I run out, and I snatch him up, and I'm like holding him up in the air, like celebrating. But when we got out there, it's out in Mount Sac, which is such a cool track and field venue. I mean, it's one of the most storied around, outside of Oregon and some of those real big ones, but Mount Sac in LA, to get to go out to Southern California and have that experience and train and do those things, and the competition was great. I remember Coach Cox telling me, he's like, man, if you throw 60 meters, like, you're going to make All-American. I'm like, pumped. I was like, I can hit 60 meters. John Paul slaps me across the face. I go and I chuck it, and I hit over 60 meters. And I'm like, yes, we're going to do this thing. Top 8 make All-American. I missed it by 2 spots. I finished 10th. But it was one of the strongest years in javelin in terms of the consistency of 60-meter plus throwers that they had, the past 10 years in Division II. So I made it through a pretty stacked class, just missing All-American by 2 spots. But to be a competitor and get to represent CU out there, and it was awesome. It was a blast. It was so much fun to compete, and then to watch the rest of the meet, even watching these guys compete, it was awesome.
So your college career ends, obviously a little bit disappointed, but still a lot to be proud of there. All these first team all-conference honors, the national qualifying. You go to Virginia Tech, you bounce around Florida, Colorado, but then you land in Denver, and this is where it gets very intriguing. I'm very much looking forward to this part of it here, Dustin. You get to Denver and you pick up bobsled, and I'm just going to let you go from right there.
Yeah. So I took the job at Elite Speed Sports Performance. There's 2 co-owners, Nick Vincent, Jim Hendricks. Jim Hendricks was a former CU track and field sprinter. Pretty big guy. He's about my size. We're both about 6'2". He was a little bit lighter than me. I think he was probably around like 195, 200. And we're just workout partners. And we're working out, training, and I think it even started almost as a New Year's resolution. We're sitting in the office in December. My roommate, Mo Nunez, and I think Jess Klosterman is one of the girls that still works with us. The 4 of us are kind of sitting in there and like, let's find something to compete in or train for or something along those lines. So we literally just sit there and start Googling things. And Jim Hendricks was the one who suggested that we look at bobsled. He had, I guess, been approached to do it when he was at CU, being a taller guy, a bigger guy who was sprinting. And he was, I think, a 10.5, 10.6 100-meter guy. He could cook. He was fast. And we're like, shoot, let's go for it. Like, they have what they call a testing combine in the springs. They do a bunch of them all over the country, but there's one in the springs, it's 45 minutes away. Shoot, that's easy. It's December. The combine is in June, so that gives us a little over 6 months. Like, let's do this thing. So that week we started. It was like the second week of December, I think, and yeah, we just trained our butt off. Went down there. It was right after the Sochi Olympics. Was my first time coming out, and apparently it was just perfect timing. They had, I want to say it was like 10 or 11 guys on the national team, and I think 8 or 9 of them retired. So there was almost like a mass exodus from the sport. And that opened up a lot of spots on the national team. So a lot of new faces coming in. We prepared really well. Big credit to Jim. He was the one running the training program and kind of setting everything up for us. And go down, we test, we do well enough, and we get invited to the next thing. And Jim, being the business owner, married, I believe 2 kids, or at least had the second one on the way. He's like, well, I can't go to New York and continue to do this. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm single. I work for you. Like, would I be able to go out there and take a week and go do this tryout, see if I can make it further? He's like, yeah, man, go for it. And it's like, gave me the time off. And I went out there and went to Lake Placid, New York, did the second round, which was like a rookie push camp, where they do a test at the end where you're actually pushing a sled on like a train tracks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They time it and kind of rank you from there. And I think I finished, I don't know, just inside the top 10, something like that. So not by no means the best guy there, but I'm in the mix. Get the invite to come back for national team trials. So they do a national team push, or a push camp that they'll start, and they'll do their team trial process. So it'll start in October, typically, when it starts to get colder up there, so they can make ice on the track, but they haven't really got it set yet. So we'll be out there for like the couple of weeks leading up to that, just doing training, doing testing. The rank for the brakeman is really important because the best drivers get the first picks, right? So Steve Holcomb was there, absolute legend in the sport, and he goes through and he picks his group. Nick Cunningham, phenomenal driver, phenomenal pusher. He goes through and picks his guys. I think Cody Baskew, who's currently USA 1 now, he was USA 3 then. He goes through and picks his guys, and I'm still there. And there's a couple of pilots that were talking to me, and then Alana Myers-Taylor, who's the female silver medalist from Sochi, comes up to me and is like, hey, I have a proposition for you. I'm like, I'm all ears. Like, what do you want? And she's like, I'm getting a 4-man sled together. And no female has ever piloted a 4-man sled before. So, in talking to her, I had a couple of offers to be on some different sleds. And she had never driven a 4-man sled before, but she's a phenomenal two-man pilot, or 2-woman tour pilot. And talking to a few people, they're like, that's probably gonna be the best move. She's gonna be able to mentor you and show you the ropes and like really help you grow as a push athlete. So being brand new to the sport, I think I agreed. I thought it was gonna be a great opportunity to learn from a silver medalist. She's a phenomenal individual too in person. And to be able to be around somebody of such high character, absolutely. I'm going to learn as much as I can from her. So I joined her sled. We race through team trials. So we do the 2-man in Lake Placid. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she's racing on the women's side for 2-man. And then, so we don't do any races there in Lake Placid. We go to Park City. Park City, Utah has the 4-man team trials race. So we go there, we're doing the training, we're doing all this, getting ready, and we race. And the top 3 sleds at that time made the national team. So we race, we finished 3rd, which was, kind of, I think, a shock. Like, she's a phenomenal pilot, phenomenal athlete. We had a really good group behind her, and that nobody knew how she would do. We're driving 4 minutes, very different. The thing is huge. It's 1,300 pounds fully loaded, and you got it going 80 miles an hour. It's a rush, and it's hard. It's very, very difficult to drive that thing. So nobody really knew kind of what she was going to be able to do with the thing, and she crushed it and finished third. And it was the most surreal experience because they hold the meeting after the races and everything, and it's not a guarantee that because you're the number 3 sled that you're going to go, but yeah, if you finish, they're most likely going to name you. So we kind of knew that we were going to get named to it, and sitting in that meeting and hearing your name called as a member of the U.S. National Bobsled Team was like a surreal moment, man. I remember that so vividly in that meeting, and the feeling that you have when you hear your name called and you get to go out there and rep the USA on the world stage. It was absolutely incredible. And yeah, that process was crazy. I remember when I made the team, I called Jim, my training partner and boss, and I was like, Jim, man, I made it. I made the team. And he was overjoyed, so happy for me. And then he's like, well, what does that mean? What's the next steps? And I'm like, well, I got to get my passport overnighted to Park City, Utah, because I'm going straight to Calgary. We got to qualify for the World Cup. So we need to go and do races now. So I told him, I was like, they're going to ship me off. It's October now. I was like, I won't be able to come back to work until March. And it was kind of silent on the other end of the phone. He's like, oh, crap. He was like, I didn't think it was going to be like this. Like, I thought I was going to lose you a couple weeks here or there. I was like, nah, man, I'm getting shipped off to Calgary. I'll be in New York, and then we're going to Europe. And I'll be gone straight through till March. I mean, he was still completely overjoyed for me and understood the opportunity that was there. And he's like, absolutely go pursue that. Like, go for it. You got my blessing. You'll have a job when you come back. So I was very grateful that they would give me 6 months off a year to go chase my dreams of making it to the Olympics and still keep me employed.
Yeah, talk to me here. You say Calgary was the first stop on the I guess the qualifying stage, and then you head to Europe. So what was some of the European cities that you guys went to? I mean, obviously a little bit different. You guys got to go where there's snow in Europe, but what were some of those trips like?
Oh man, that experience was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we flew in. We landed in Munich. This is the first time I've ever left the United States. I've never crossed the border into Canada. I'd been really close. I've been in a plane over the Great Lakes. I've been really close to going to Mexico. I was in the southern tip of California, so much so my cell phone thought I was in Mexico, but I wasn't. I was still in California. So I'd never traveled internationally before. So they ship us off to Calgary. We spend some time in New York training and racing there, and then yeah, we fly into Munich. They turn us loose. They give us a bunch of rental cars and say, hey, here's where we're going to be. This is what you got to do. And we bounced around from Winterberg, Altenburg, Königssee in Germany, and then Eagles in Austria. Then we went over to Le Plan in France. We cut through northern Italy, which, I mean, my gosh, man, that country is so beautiful. I mean, all of it is. And from Austria down through Italy was like by far my favorite leg of the trip. And that drive was insane. We drove past Lake Como in northern Italy, which is unreal beautiful. And it was amazing. We're in Switzerland. That place is incredibly gorgeous. Actually got to go to Russia. We had a race in Sochi, so we got to see the Olympic venue. That track is unbelievable. It's gorgeous, and we were staying there in the Olympic, what was the Olympic Village, and I mean that stay was just great. Tons of fun. We fly them back to kind of like our central leg and bounce around Germany some more with, Germany having 3 tracks. It's a pretty big deal out there. The sport of bobsled is really popular. Bobsled, skeleton, and luge. Mm-hmm. So they have beautiful tracks, a lot of fans. The energy is great. I mean, they have, I want to say, I could get this wrong, but they have a Kreisel in one of the tracks, which is almost a 360. So You come in and you do a full loop around and you kind of come back out underneath
Oh, wow.
the track that you just kind of entered in on. Well, the one track, I believe it's Winterberg. I could be wrong with that. But they have they had a band playing in Kreisel. There was an ice bar and a ton of people and vendors, and you come through and you're doing your training runs and stuff like that, or you're doing a race. You come through and you're in Kreisel and you hear the band playing. You smell like the different, foods and stuff that are being cooked there, and you can hear the fans. They have these giant bells. They're ringing and all this noise, and it's the energy over there around the sport of bobsled and skeleton is so cool because there's so many fans there, and they really pay attention and care about the sport, which is awesome.
Yeah, I didn't. I did not know the half of your bobsled journey. I just knew that back in 2017 when you went into the Hall of Fame, I know that it was kind of, hey, I might be there and I might not be there. It just depends on what the weather's like. I think you were maybe in Lake Placid at that point, maybe. But
yeah,
I mean,
so I had switched to piloting at that point. So the first 2 years I was a brakeman, and the next 2 years I was a pilot. So if it was just a brakeman, it wouldn't have been a big deal. I probably could have had somebody, fill in that spot, and I come down or something like that. But I'm a pilot at this point. Like, I got to drive that sucker, and I'm racing for qualifying spots, right? The higher you place, the faster you go, the more the potential there is for funding and all that kind of stuff. And that matters because we're all extremely broke athletes at this point doing this really expensive sport. And it's a pretty big deal to get placement. So if the weather was too warm, the race was going to get pushed back, and then that would have been too tight of a window to make it down. But if the weather was cold enough, we could have had the race on time. I could have left right after the race, rented a car, drove down, was there for the ceremony, and then went back. But weather didn't cooperate. It was too warm, so we had to push it back. So then I had to do a quick little video and send it in. But that Hall of Fame induction, it meant a lot to me. Being a two-sport walk-on athlete, both sports, not having any scholarship, a lot of times people kind of look down on that walk-on, because you're not good enough coming in to warrant the scholarship. And that's not how I looked at it at all. I looked at it as an opportunity, and I'm going to go out there, and nobody's going to work harder than I am. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to succeed at this. And just went at it and attacked it. And just having that Hall of Fame induction was kind of like the validation of all that work that I put in to go from walk on and having that great career, and being recognized for that is a huge honor.
Yeah, Dustin, I think that's a good spot right there to kind of wrap it up, man. I mean, this has been awesome. From being like almost an Ivy Leaguer at one point in your career to being a national qualifier in track and obviously being on a World Cup bobsled team. I mean, I think you have done it all, and I think you're close to almost seeing the whole world apparently. But yeah, man, this has been awesome. I appreciate your time today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm glad I could do it.
Once again, Dustin Greenwood here on Concord Athletic Alumni at Work. Dustin, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys. Go Mountain Lions.